My name is Amanda Carlson, and I've always believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt. My mom used to say, people carry hidden burdens, so be kind even when they're cold. But I learned the hard way that sometimes those cold glances and sarcastic laughs hide something deeper, something darker. It started when I got promoted at my marketing firm in downtown Chicago. I had worked there for 4 years, climbing steadily up the ladder. I never stepped on anyone's toes, never tried to outshine anybody. I thought I had friends there, or at least allies. But after I became the new brand manager, the air around me felt off. There was one person in particular, Lindsay Powers. At first glance, she was charming, always quick with a joke, always ready to help. But once I got the promotion, that changed. It was subtle at first. She stopped greeting me in the mornings. No more, "Hey girl," or her usual smile when I walked in. She'd greet others, even people she hardly knew, but not me. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just having a bad day or week. But it continued. I would catch her staring at me in meetings with this blank, almost hollow expression, then quickly look away when our eyes met. No words, no smile, just silence. Then came the jokes, thinly disguised insults wrapped in laughter. Once, at lunch, Lindsay commented on my presentation from that morning. "Wow, Amanda, you really gave us the PowerPoint of doom." I thought I'd need a nap halfway through. Everyone chuckled, including me, awkwardly. But I could tell she wasn't joking. Her smile never reached her eyes. I wanted to say something, to confront her, but how do you call out someone for what they don't say? Over time, it became more obvious. She never supported my ideas during team discussions. If I made a suggestion, she would immediately counter it or redirect the conversation. It wasn't always obvious to others, but to me, it was crystal clear. I could feel her resistance like a wall I kept walking into. What hurt the most was how she would praise others for ideas I had brought up earlier. I'd mention a campaign strategy during a brainstorming session, and it would be ignored. Then, 2 days later, Lindsay would bring up the exact same idea, worded slightly differently, and suddenly it was brilliant. She'd shoot me a look across the table, one that said, "See? This is how it's done." One day, I overheard a conversation that shattered any remaining hope I had. I had forgotten my phone in the break room and walked back to retrieve it. The door was slightly ajar. Inside, Lindsay was talking to 2 of our colleagues, Tyler and Marissa. I couldn't hear every word, but what I caught made my stomach churn. "She thinks she's everyone's boss now," Lindsay said with a laugh. "Amanda's just lucky, not talented. If I had kissed up to Mr. Bennett the way she did, maybe I'd be manager too." Tyler didn't respond, but Marissa giggled nervously. I stepped back quietly and walked away. That comment didn't just sting, it burned. I had worked my tail off for that promotion. I stayed late. I delivered. And I never kissed up to anyone. Hearing her belittle my efforts so casually was the moment I realized Lindsay didn't just dislike me. She hated me. Still, I kept quiet. I focused on my work and tried to limit our interactions. But hate is persistent. It doesn't sit still, it spreads. Lindsay began excluding me from casual after-work hangouts. I'd hear about happy hours only after they'd happened. Inside jokes would fly around the office that I didn't understand. Slowly, I became the outsider in a place I had once called my professional home. Even worse, Lindsay started sabotaging my work in ways that were hard to prove. She would forget to forward important client emails to me or leave me out of critical communication threads. On one occasion, she gave our design team the wrong deadline for a campaign I was leading, which almost cost us the client. When I confronted her privately, she acted confused. "Oh no, I must have misread the memo. I'm so sorry, Amanda." But the look in her eyes said otherwise. I tried talking to HR once just to see if there was a way to mediate things. But without clear evidence of misconduct, there was little they could do. "Maybe she's just competitive," the HR rep said. "It's not uncommon in corporate settings." I walked out of that office feeling smaller than ever. I began to doubt myself. Was I imagining things? Was I too sensitive? But then came the final straw, the moment I knew I had to act. We were presenting a major campaign to an out-of-town client. I had worked for weeks on the pitch, crafting every slide, every word. Lindsay was supposed to open the meeting with a brief overview, then hand it off to me. But when the meeting started, she didn't hand it off. She took over. She presented my work like it was hers, skimming through the slides as if I were just the assistant. I sat there stunned, heart pounding, unsure whether to interrupt or stay composed. After the meeting, the client complimented her on the presentation. She smiled, nodded, and said, "Thank you. Amanda helped me a lot with the background research." Background research? That was my project. That evening, I went home and cried. I mean, sobbed. I had reached my breaking point. But that night also changed me. I wasn't going to be a victim in my own story anymore. The next morning, I walked into Mr. Bennett's office, our division director, and asked for 10 minutes. I laid everything on the table. Not just the sabotage, but the pattern. The exclusion, the jokes, the credit theft. I didn't cry. I didn't stutter. I told my truth. He listened quietly and nodded. Then he said, "I've noticed some of this myself. Thank you for bringing it to me directly." 2 weeks later, Lindsay was moved to another team, still in the company, but with no overlap in our responsibilities. The air around my desk felt lighter. A few colleagues even came up to me and said they had noticed how unfairly I had been treated but hadn't known how to say anything. Since then, I've learned to spot the subtle signs much faster. When someone avoids eye contact, laughs at your expense, withholds support, or constantly dismisses your ideas, don't ignore it. When they gossip behind your back, smile in your face, and secretly celebrate your failures, those are red flags waving in plain sight. It's not always safe to confront someone like Lindsay, but it is always right to protect your peace, even if that means drawing boundaries or speaking up when it counts. Hatred wears masks, politeness, charm, even friendship. But eventually, if you pay attention, the truth always shows itself. I now lead a team of 5 and focus on building an environment where no one has to question who's on their side. I learned a painful lesson, but one that shaped me into a better leader and a stronger woman. If you're reading this and it feels too familiar, listen to your gut. Those subtle signs aren't paranoia, they're clues. Clues that someone may not be rooting for you. And you owe it to yourself to walk where you're celebrated, not merely tolerated.